Hey, everyone. Yep, we're live. So I just wanted to mention to everyone, actually, let me make sure I get, yeah, here we go. Yeah, just want to make sure that everything's good. Now, Chrissy we were already linked up and she's having a poor connection quality issues. So she'll join us here. Well, she's still in there. So I don't know if she's just having an issue with the connection right now, but she is there. Oh, she's probably going to have to reset her connection. I believe she already had to do so once, but I'll just let you know anyways. Chrissy Garbutt is someone that I'm going to be having a conversation with today. And what's playing heavy on her mind is the whole opiate addiction issue. And it's something that I know has a definite profound effect on a lot of people. Now, I'm just going to, like I said, I'm going to wait till she tries to join into the conversation. But even if anything happens in this, well, I'm here to do this stream, regardless of how it plays out as far as our connection with Chrissy, because there's lots of things that still have to be discussed. And today is going to be one of those days too that yesterday is weird. I had this advertisement that popped up. I thought my stream was ended abruptly, but apparently it wasn't. Apparently I was still live streaming. So sorry for cutting it a little short yesterday. Today I'm going to try to go a little longer though. And like I say, even if I'm talking with Chris or not, I want to deal with everyone in the chat, because I know a lot of you there that do join into watching the shows. You also want to have engagement and some dialogue with myself. And I will definitely try to pay more attention to you in the chat today for sure. Although right now it doesn't look like there's anybody there, but when someone does show up eventually, I guess. Let's just give a couple minutes here for Chrissy to try to hopefully get joined back into the stream. Okay. Yeah, she was saying she had to travel closer into, I think, the local city where she's at, and she had a really poor connection. That's actually something, while we're waiting, I'll mention that, yeah, it's terrible that in Canada in 2019, there's so many areas of this country that has really, really, really poor internet coverage. And that's unacceptable in something that's supposed to be, a first world nation, right? An advanced, developed nation. Well, how advanced and how developed are you really if you can't serve the needs of the people within your population? If it's only done in particular areas, well, developed, I guess, quasi-developed, right? This is the area where, like I say, the free market would be able to cover these particular issues. But in the environment that we function now, where just even start a business, especially in the telecommunications field, there's multiple layers of bureaucracy, and the barriers to entry are quite substantial, which is why we're stuck relying on people such as Elon Musk and his SpaceX program and the satellite initiative that they've actually they did their first initial launch. And I believe they got, 60 of those mini satellites already up there. I believe they got to get between 1,000 and 1,200 to have complete global coverage. But once they get all those mini satellites up there and in a particular low Earth orbit where you can have not just great coverage, but excellent speeds as well as far as your internet or broadband connection. And once they get that done, then you won't have to rely on ground-based infrastructure. Then you'll be able to have it, like, no matter if you live in the middle of the desert or in rural communities such as where I live in New Brunswick, or even where Chrissy lives up north in Canada. That's the beautiful thing about having the amazing minds, the creativity, and the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of people such as Elon Musk, that they'll figure out ways. There's great minds that will figure out ways to offer us great products and service that will benefit us in so many areas, in so many regards, in terms of our personal, social, or economic lives. And I'm appreciative of the fact that there are now alternative platforms that will be coming online, not just platforms, but internet service providers and internet type connections that will be coming online over the next few years. You can rest assured on that. You're not going to have to rely on the dinosaurs of the past for much longer, folks. Change is coming. We just got to wait for it. Darn. Let me just minimize here real quick and see if Chrissy has responded again on the, oh shoot. Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. This is a drag. I'm trying on my phone now, but the Hangout sign in doesn't go to you. Really? What? That seems really odd because it's the same sign in. That is a drag. That's odd. Keep trying. I will stay online regardless for a while. Anyway. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's too bad about Chrissy's connection. That's a shame because I'm sure she had lots of things that she probably wanted to point out. She's been trying to reach out, have a conversation with me for quite a little while now, and like I say, I'm always looking to talk to people in regards to any social or economic issues. And the opiate crisis is definitely one of those important issues that definitely has a profound effect on a substantial portion of the Canadian population. Just check and see. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Okay, yeah, let me get through these chats here, not be so quick. Yeah, look at Andrew Scheer, right? Dominic Guay. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, Scheer, see? Libcons doing the same things as the leftists, the liberals under Trudeau. PC, the PC police are coming for you. Come on, Canada, get on board. You know damn well you don't want to be supporting the establishment or the status quo of the Libcons today. Come on. You know the real game in town today. If you want real change and you want people to understand and respect each other for our individual sovereignty, our rights and freedoms, that place, yeah, we're all congregated around the PPC. So join us over there. Yeah, forget about Scheer. Drop those zeros and join the heroes, right? Anyways, let me get down because 5G is definitely evil. Paul Kingston. Yeah, let me once again, us old guys, I got to expand on the size of the text here. Hey guys, this is Wanamaker, Dominic Guay. 5G is not evil. Hey, he's saying it's not. You guys argue amongst yourselves. I don't think any particular technology is evil. I think the people that use it have the potential to use it for evil, but the technology by itself, I don't know. It'd be hard to suggest a particular piece of technology is inherently evil. Soon won't be able to be a place on Earth without a connection. Well, that's not true, actually, Pete Kingston, actually, because like I said, Elon Musk and many of them out there are actually trying to give us some alternative options, and they will come online. You just watch how this plays out, at least for the next 5 years. Things are going to get better, not worse, or at least I hope so. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say that I know that with any certain amount of certainty, but I believe, like, I do actually have at least a substantial or a fair amount of faith in the human experience or people in general. I think people will try their best, especially the ones that have the ambition and are goal-oriented. I think they'll try their best to counteract those that want to deny or suppress our voices. And like I say, because the people that want to expand upon our freedoms have the proper incentives, I think at the end of the day, they will always win out. Coach, we will see how. Okay, so the 5G, they are control weapons. Research Lily Waves. Okay, I'm not familiar with that stuff. Pete Kingston. Scheer is such a coward, tropical coder. You're right about that. No kidding, right? Can't even allow the guy to think about it. The guy wasn't outrageous. That the MP that said, towards the witness. I mean, that was it was so minute in what he said. Like, really though, he's going to be punished for that. This is a representation. Like I say, think about how ridiculously and how sensationalized the media are trying to put out. And Ken is now this white nationalist, like racist nation now, right? Why? For the stupid stuff like that. Like I say, anyone out there on the global landscape that's watching this stuff and how it unfolds, like, look at these dumbass Canadians. They think it's racist for challenging someone for their own internal biases, right? Like, it's just so insane. Listen, white nationalism, Nazism, yeah, that's not that predominant in Canadian culture. These idiots in the media can put forth that narrative, and many Canadians will swallow. And I even see people that predominantly align with leftists are even saying, come on, don't be so ridiculous. Canada's not a white nationalist nation. They're all filled with a bunch of racists. Come on, Canada. I'm sorry. Like, really, Canada now? Canada went from being I'm sorry and being too overly polite that all of a sudden the media has completely upended that apple cart. And now apparently we're all just filled with, I guess we're all walking around with, like, white hoods, right? White pointy hoods, right? With our pitchforks and our tiki torches on the other hand, right? What a load of nonsense that hacks in the media. That's why they're losing the Canadian people to a substantial degree, because the rhetoric they espouse is not even representative of reality, and most Canadians recognize that. Hey, what's going on, Gato, buddy? Nice to see you in the chat. I'm just, like I say, I'm just waiting here to hopefully Chrissy gets back into the chat, but I don't know, she was having some pretty poor connection issues, and I feel bad because, like I say, it's terrible that in 2019 we have such poor quality connections. How's everyone doing? Right on, Gato. Trying to stay on top of the chat today, folks. CPCs have so much crow. It's going to be embarrassing. Oh, so true. That's the thing. Yeah, you go ahead and align with the CPC if you think that, that's the thing. These people with the short-term strategies as far as, let me just get a position of power. You not realize that all that time that you've spent selling your soul to the proverbial devil to get some position of power and authority, well, that's why you lose credibility in the medium term and the long term. You go ahead and keep playing that short-term game, you politicians, and you'll see at the end of the day, in the age of information. Hey, what's going on? Hey, I think I hear Chrissy. Hold on here 1 sec. I think Chrissy joined us back here. Hey, Chrissy, what's going on? Hello? Oh, shoot. Well, that was short-lived. Hello? Dang. Yeah, that's a shame, Chrissy. Chat got to go. Thanks. Oh, Vernon Gale. Got to go. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. Hey, like I said, well, I'll be on this stream for at least a while yet. I don't do too many things in short term. I'll probably be on for at least an hour or two for sure. You can almost rest assured on that one. So if you got to come back, hey, what's going on out there? Sounds like there might be a parade going on or something. Anyways, honestly, I'll be disappointed if the PPC don't get the majority vote in each district. It sounds good, Dominic, but listen, get out there and talk to some Canadians. You'll be like, I do all the time. And most Canadians they fall for the CBC narrative. Unfortunately, like they're falling for this stuff. So, like I say, well, the importance, I think, is to offer people a counter narrative, is to literally share not just my own videos, but even videos from people that are somewhat aligned with me as far as standing in defense of our individual rights, freedoms, liberties. And what, the Canadian experience is supposed to entail is, if you're not doing that, then, and if they're only being inundated daily with propagandist nonsense from those in the established media, such as the CBC, well, when they show up at the ballot boxes, they're going to be predominantly, like I say, relying on that knowledge that they gained only from that organization that represents collectivism, authoritarian collectivism. So without people like myself having our voices out there, good luck trying to change or convince Canadians to adopt more philosophical or fundamental understandings of what it is to be free, because they're not getting the proper information. That's the importance. I can't stress enough how important it is to share people like myself, to share our videos. I put on not just a proper representation as far as my videos, but I do it in a manner that is hopefully conducive that you can share. And I mean, if someone that you think that might be able to, let's say like it's someone you're like, I don't want to share it because they'll disagree. Well, even if they disagree, I mean, just share it to them and say, okay, if you disagree with Bennett and his stance and what he stands for, then you challenge him. You ask them. Like I say, you don't even have to get into an argument. That's the beautiful thing about using people like myself is you don't have to get into an argument with, your family member, your friend, your coworker, whoever. Just say, I heard this from this guy, Bennett Hunter, the Canadian Libertarian, and it sounds like it's a reasonable position or a stance to take. And if you disagree with it, then, hey, I'm not sure on that, but maybe you should try to argue against him or maybe have a conversation, because he's also said that he's willing to have a conversation with anyone. And if you think you can make a better case or an argument that's opposing or contrary to his position, then do so. And I'll fall in line with whoever makes the best case or the best argument, right? That's all you need to do. You don't have to be confrontational yourself. You just have to, like I say, I'll assume that tax, that role, that responsibility. I don't mind it. But like I say, it can't happen without you sharing it with the people that really need to learn this stuff and really need to hear this stuff. Need to hear something that's outside that narrow scope, that purview that is a representation of the establishment and those who represent not just the ruling class, but the media class in this country. You really have to hold their feet to the fire. And if you can't do it yourself, like, I'm totally on board and understand, because it does require a tremendous amount of effort, education, and knowledge, but I can. And there's a few of us out here, well, quite a few of us out here that can. So like I say, offload that responsibility, if need be, onto myself. If it has to, like, I'd still say try it yourself. But if you want to offload that responsibility on me, I'm totally on board. I'll accept that. And I'll step up the plate every time. But you have to share it with the people that need to hear it. If you're just sitting around, like I say, at a bar and you're just talking to people that are more aligned with respecting people's individual rights, freedom, and liberty, well, then we're all still just functioning in an echo chamber. We have to reach out and try to appeal to and bring in those who are like the silent majority, or even some of our opponents, because a lot of our opponents aren't necessarily our opponents. If you dig down deep in it, it's just that they've been told the wrong things and have had misinformation or have been ill-informed in regards to what, libertarians stand for and stuff. It's just to break them free from their indoctrinated stupor. And everything that you can do to expose them to new information is a benefit not just to them, but to society at large and to you as well. Long shot. Yeah. Oh, it's always it's definitely a long shot. The PPC gaining majority power status in the October election. Hey, I'd love to see it. And it's not out of the realm of possibility, because look, we've seen it happen actually. And if we can get enough Canadians, hey, we still got what, 5+ months here. I think that's still plenty enough time that we can make this a reality, but does require a lot of effort on all of our behalves to make that a reality. Repeal drug prohibition to reduce opiate deaths. Yeah, of course. Is that the subject Chrissy wanted to? Yeah, that probably is actually Chris. And it's a shame, like I say, hopefully, actually, before I continue on, let me just check, because she's communicating with me on my Facebook page. Okay, so yeah, she said okay, so she's going to keep trying. And yeah, it's a shame. Yes, it definitely is along the lines of what you were alluding to. That's basically what she wanted to discuss. And like I say, it's probably something very important. It's something that would, be beneficial to even some of those in the chat that need to hear this kind of stuff. They most certainly should be there. They most certainly should be. Oh, abortion is a political word that makes murder respectable, is what I tell. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Abortion is a conversation that, I mean, trying to put it on the back burner and never discuss it. Well, never discuss it. Look at how far things have gone as far as those who are proponents or promoters of abortion. In Canada, you have no restrictions whatsoever. You can abort a baby right up till basically just prior to actual giving birth. That's disgusting, folks. There should be something as far as how easy it is to take a person's life, right? That's something that should be thoroughly discussed. But once again, the authoritarians, and when they deal with actual situations or issues that there is some genuine nuance, division there. Hey, I'm hearing someone here. Hey, she's back.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
How's this connection?
Well, you go ahead, Chrissy, because I've already introduced you, so you just go right ahead and delve into whatever you want to say. You just go right ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here, CL. I really appreciate it. I really want to talk about the opiate crisis today. I know drug use is an ongoing problem, has probably been since the beginning of our time on this planet. But we've got 10,000 plus dead Canadians in the last 2.5 years. That's more than anyone we lost any soldiers we lost in Vietnam. I know we didn't really participate like everyone else, but that's more than any cops that have ever been killed. That's more than any people that have been killed by drunk drivers. It's more than anything. Hello?
Yeah, we're still hitting. No, we're
Hello?
still good.
You know, it's more than, you know, any atrocity we give a load of time to on mainstream media on a regular basis. And, you know, when I said the number of 10,000 people, 72% at my last count of those people have been killed by carfentanil. Carfentanil is a fentanyl analog. It's not fentanyl. Fentanyl is not for patches anymore. Carfentanil is a lethal poison. There's only one reason to put it in anything for human consumption, and that's to kill them. Fentanyl analogs are used in lethal injection. They've been used by the Russians as a weapon. And now we have the audacity to stand here while our fellow Canadian gets slaughtered with this poison and call them overdoses. I want to ask you something, CL.
Yeah.
If somebody, same homicidal maniac, put carfentanil in our beer, our smokes, or our Timmies for that matter, would we call them overdoses and stand around debating and withholding fundings for antidotes? No.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, you're right.
Have an national emergency declared, and we'd have tents set up all over the country if this was happening. We wouldn't be doing this to our fellow. I'm going to tell you something else. CAMH put out a report in October 2016. And in that report was a stat that alarmed me. And it was that between 91 and 2007, 56% of Ontario opioid-related deaths filled a prescription during their month of death. So tell me, why is drug dealing illegal again?
Yeah, no, it's
what happens?
No,
what happens to people when they do things like this? What happens to the individual when they go and cause harm or loss like this? They go to jail. Why are these practitioners and these pushers immune to the law? You know, I want to tell you something. These people, these thousands and thousands of Canadians aren't just junkies on the street. They had lives. They had faces. They have families. And just like any other atrocity that goes on in this world, it's going to be the survivors and their families that stand up and change this. Because the Crown of Canada is riding on public ignorance and the fact that we have been taught to stigmatize each other to get away with this. This is terrorism. Can you imagine making the victims of the London bombing beg for health care? Can you imagine? No. So I would like to find a politician that's actually willing to stand up to these thugs. I really would. And I haven't seen one yet. The closest politician I came to that I believed actually was concerned, you know, in a way that they could talk to the public about this was Jane Philpott. And look what happened to her.
Oh yeah. Jane and Jody found out. Yeah, Jane and Jody found out pretty quick what happens if you don't toe the party line, right? That's one thing I think was actually was very not only did it expose the Liberals for what they truly are, but I think it will have a profound effect on a lot of people from First Nations or Aboriginal communities as far as trusting anyone that represents the political establishment in this country. It's a bad idea. And what I've always understood is, yeah, sure, the Liberals might come at you with this pretense of benevolence, but like I say, you got to worry, you know, as much as I get that, you know, people are a little bit more fearful of people that they would perceive as right-wingers. But like I've said so many other times in the past, the right-wingers at least show their authoritarian stripes and they wear them on their arms. You can see them. Whereas the ones that are representation of the left, the Liberals, those are the ones that want to trick you. They want you to think that they care about you. Oh, everything is about, oh, I just want to do what's best. In reality, it's very paternalistic. It's very authoritarian, and they want to stick their thumb and control you. That's really what they want to do. Whereas the conservative types might want to have more of a hands-off approach. The Liberals want to get close to you. They want you to think that they're on your side, but they're going to shaft you just as badly, actually probably even worse than the people that you might deem like the conservatives that are your current, like as far as political opponents. But that's the thing that I think a lot of people in the First Nation communities need to understand, that you cannot trust anyone that's a representation of the establishment, because they only care about power. And at the end of the day, some people have the ability to achieve power by might. You know, that's the right wingers. They can achieve power by might. The left, no, they can't achieve power by might. They achieve power by manipulating your mind. And the left are very, very good at that, which is why I need a lot of people that are from your communities and the First Nations and the Aboriginal peoples to reject these liberals' bullshit pretense of benevolence. They are just as authoritarian as the right-wing counterparts, and make no mistake about that.
But you know something, CL? I'll tell you, one thing I learned throughout my life is there are elitists in the Indigenous community as well, okay? You know, most people that have been at the hands of parties like the Liberals and the Conservatives, they've all had their turn, right? You know, it's the elitists in the Indigenous communities that are siding with these cronies. You know, the people, the individuals that are suffering, they are wise to the projection going on, because you know, and I see it plain as day. When I look at all these things about gun control and media control, they're projecting their own behaviors onto the public. You know, I have a real hard time with a group of people who stigmatize and treat an entire race differently than anyone else, calling someone else a hater. How do they do that with a straight face? It's ridiculous. And the fact that people can't see this, I don't know. I'm very concerned for all of us here. I'm very concerned by this Trudeau. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm embarrassed to say this, okay? I voted for Trudeau. The day he got in, I bawled my eyes out. I absolutely, in ignorance, adored his father. I was a little politician when I was in grade 3. I got kicked out of class for making caricatures of René Lévesque and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. You know, like, in any case, I was very happy when Trudeau got in. I believed him. I really did. And now I want to be sick.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I can say that expresses that. Just, I want to be sick.
Well, you know, and that's actually important, because it's our real world experiences that's going to define us best. And what I've always acknowledged in my whole life, even my own personal anecdotal experiences, coming from, like I say, living in rural New Brunswick, and there is some underlying aspects of racism or prejudice that happens in some of those rural small communities, where I even had people growing up that would suggest to me, I worked for a place that was, I won't name the name of the company, but I worked for a place where you delivered to First Nation communities particular products. And some of them said to me, oh, no, you don't want to go to those places. Oh, these are terrible people. Oh, anyways, what I've always done my whole life is, I don't care what other people say, is I like to deal with people as individuals, because the only way I'll be able to know what you are as a person is by dealing with you as the individual. And what I understood is, if I was aligning with people who were trying to tell me or jam me into my head as how I should perceive of others, I would have probably become a racist myself or prejudiced in that way. But because I had the ability to just, like I say, reject that and just deal with people on their individual basis, I was one of those people that actually would go into the First Nation communities. And what I noticed right off is what you were alluding to already is, yes, you might find a small subsect, and this is the same whether you're white, black, brown, whatever color or whatever background you come from. There's a small subsect of people that are very authoritarian, very much racist, very much all about identity politics and stuff. But if you actually just deal with the people, like you were saying, like you, Chrissy, or just an average First Nations person, you'll find out, hey, they're probably almost exactly like you. They probably have a lot of the same concerns and thoughts as you, and care about their family and their community as well as you do. So if you just put aside, you know, those preconceived notions or prejudice that have been jammed in your head by people that have ill intentions, and like I say, just deal with each other as individuals. That's where I think we should all become together as Canadians. Is we don't have to agree with each other on everything. Like I say, all I really care about is, like, for as far as you're concerned, Christy, is I just want, if you say to me that you'll respect my sovereignty and my freedom, as long as I'm not harming you or anyone that you care about, and I'll do the same thing for you. And that's how we can have that live mentality, and how we can live together peacefully and be respectful of each other. But the authoritarians, they don't like that. Say, that's the thing with the authoritarians, is they know the only way for them to maintain their positions of power and influence is to keep us all divided and fighting amongst each other. Because if they realize that 36 million Canadians, if all of a sudden that 36 million Canadians stopped focused on fighting each other, and they looked at those, few hundred or few thousand authoritarians that are trying to rule over us, well, we'd be like, oh, we could overwhelm them. Well, we wouldn't even have to do anything. We just have to show that we're a solid force of people that promote individual liberty, and they wouldn't be able to do a goddamn thing against us, which is why it's so important for all of us to come together and show that we have that amazing capacity to push aside the authoritarians and put real freedom at the forefront of what it is to be a Canadian. I don't care what your background is or how you want to identify.
My close friend Morgan has a saying, and that is, I think the only thing we can do is ignore these freakers out of existence. We got to turn our backs on them.
Yeah, you just go about your life and live as if they... Yeah, go ahead.
It's frustrating. It's so very frustrating. It took me many, many years to come to terms with how this the policy in this country works. The policy in this country allows psychotic abusers to act out their personalities on us. I don't like to use the word the government. I try to minimize that because it makes it an inanimate object. And inanimate objects can't do anything. We can't put our fingers on inanimate objects, and we can't hold inanimate objects accountable. So in coming to terms with how the Crown affected my life, I've had to start identifying what the Crown actually is. Like I just said, it is individuals who are choosing to use policy to act out their personalities on us. And it has to stop. It has to stop. And, I've kind of made it a point in what I write about to start naming names. I don't like to be a finger pointer, but when it's time to hold accountable, it's time to hold accountable. So yeah, there's just so much to think about, and I really don't know where to start. I've never been into politics really in my life, except for, as like I said, as a child, I've always been interested in it, but I was always fairly ignorant to it. I'm not anymore. I'm not anymore at all. And I've had a taste of this, white versus native versus this versus that in my life. My dad's side of the family's English and Irish and whatever you want to call them. WASPs, and I've just been able to kind of break it down to the individual aspects of everything. It's the only way that this is ever going to get solved, or we're just going to continue to stigmatize each other and label each other and operate under those things. And we know who that benefits. That benefits sick people, because only sick people want to do that. And there's another quote I just love, and that is, "It is no measure of good mental health to be well adjusted to a sick society." And that's what we've become. It's how the divide and conquer has worked with us. It's made us very angry, very sad, and we're lashing out at each other. And that is ultimately, I believe, the plan of the elite people that run this country, that think they own us. And that's what they do believe. They believe they own us. I mean, welcome to the farm, right?
Yeah. But you know what, Chrissy? But what that shows, though, is that, and that's the beautiful thing about you and I having this conversation today, is we can show that we can break through that nonsense and prove with real world example that no, I don't want to think of Chrissy based on what she identifies as far as superficial aspects of where she came from, her heritage. No, I want to deal with Chrissy as an individual, and we're showing it perfectly in this example today that that's all that needs to be done. Because I've heard it, you've heard it, we've all heard this, especially some white people that talk about First Nations people in such a collective manner, and they say, oh, they're all like, let's say, actually with First Nation people and predominantly my heritage, which is Irish and Scottish, the funny part is we should actually totally get along, because the Irish and the First Nations people are two actual groups that have been pointed to historically as, oh, they're just a bunch of drunks, right? Seriously, right? Right? No, but seriously though, and I've heard that described, not just, like I say, not just people from my background, the Irish people, but I've heard that described First Nations people so many times too. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why would you point out an entire group of people and just use one underlying thing to describe them? And even if you could make some correlation and say there are a substantial portion of the population that maybe do have alcohol abuse problems, but my question would be, even if you could show that there is an example of that, which I believe does have some truth, underlying it, but once again, we're dealing with individuals. But it's like, but what is the reasoning behind it? I wonder if it might have anything to. Yeah, well, to me, it's like, I wonder if it might have anything to do with the fact that historically, a lot of the Irish people were oppressed by the monarchy, right? And I would imagine that a lot of the First Nations people were oppressed by the monarchy as well. Maybe a lot of these people turn towards, vices or something to get over their oppression as a means to escape it. So rather than pointing to the victims and saying you're terrible for finding a way to escape your oppression, rather than pointing at them and saying they're terrible, why don't you just try to figure out ways to give them more freedom, and maybe they will be better, more adaptive, and more healthier people as a result. I think freedom is always the answer as far as that goes.
Yeah, CL, one thing that I will say this is, in the public education system, I grew up in the early 70s throughout grade school. We were taught to label people. We were taught to do this. When I look at what's going on now with the LGBTQ community and, all that, I don't hear anyone talking about, hey, man, in the 70s, we were taught in public school that homosexuals were mentally ill. We were taught that natives were savages. We were taught that this group was that and that group was this. That is the way the crown has worked since I've been on this planet. And now they want to act like it's something that came out of our pocket, some kind of hate that came out of our pocket. Well, they're wrong. And when we start to see each other as individuals, we will see through this. But until you give it a chance with the individuality aspect of things, you're not going to see the truth. And we're still going to be pointing our fingers at each other for the crown and being separate.
Yeah. Well said, Chrissy. And it didn't take me long to understand this, even as when I was growing up and just in my young ages and in my teens and stuff. It's like, because like you're saying, I was taught a lot of this stuff too, right? This kind of collective group thinking and stereotyping people and these prejudice. But like I say, all it took for me was just deal with people on an individual basis. And even when my parents moved me to Toronto when I was younger, I was only 12 years old. And then at that point, I was introduced to like a whole different communities of people, like Indians and Pakistanis and Black people stuff. And what I realized even then is, like, once again, every time I had this example, is I was proven every time that I can't do that. I just can't, because it doesn't make sense for me to stereotype a person, because I've seen so many examples where people that even don't even share my skin color have treated me better than people that have the same skin. So what I learned very early on is there's no way I can ever use that as a pretense or identifier when I'm dealing with people. The only thing that matters to me is who you are as a person. And really, like I say, at the end of the day, that is our true power. And that's a power that they'll never be able to deny us or destroy if we can show that with real world proof, that we can put aside our internal biases or differences and guarantee that we all do have them. That is a reality. As long as we right. Exactly. And that's okay. That's not a wrong thing. It's just that when to me, all that matters most is when we're dealing with each other socially, engaging each other economically. I don't care what your internal biases are, as long as when we're dealing with each other, we respect each other's sovereignty. And that's all I care about. If you can respect me for that, when we're done our engagements, you can go home and sit around and do whatever you want. You can even talk some nonsense about white people. I don't really care. Like, to me, it doesn't matter.
Hey, no, I kid you not. I do have my biases, and I'm working really hard to implement what I've learned about respecting individuality. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But when it's in your heart to do that, things start to change. Relationships start to change. You start to learn more opening up that way. You know, it's a really, really different way of life. It's totally different from what I was brought up by the public system to be, you know. So yeah, it's we've got a lot ahead of us. We got to get rid of this liberal government, and to make sure that the conservatives don't get in.
Yeah,
We've got a lot.
yeah, well, that's the thing. They both represent, well, I call them, and a few of us have created the moniker now, libcons, because they are basically two wings of the same bird. They're all just, and they just sit back and they wait till it's their turn because they realize, and the same happens in the US or the UK. UK, they call them conservatives and labor. The US, they call them Democrats and Republicans. But what it is, it's just flip-flop. So they just wait their turn. But all of them have their same underlining authoritarian means in how they want to implement their policies. It's just that they just wait till they get to do it their way, because they would never want to destroy that two-party system, because then they don't have that ability to counteract. As long as the people think that there is a difference by having these two established parties, they think, oh, I can just pick one or the other. It's like, well, I use this example all the time. It's like, well, do you want authoritarian mommy or daddy? As far as I'm concerned, we're all adults. Right. How about we treat each other as adults? I don't want authoritarian mommy or daddy. I don't want any of them. I just want, in Canada, I want us all to have some very basic ground rules where we respect each other's sovereignty and we don't hurt each other. We don't steal from each other. We don't, try to kill. And as long as we can have those very basic premises and principles, we'll figure out a way to engage. And even if we don't, even those of us that don't necessarily want to engage with each other, then you do your thing and I'll do my thing. And that's there's nothing wrong with that either. So we got to definitely make sure that this left-right paradigm has finally been something that people no longer adopt, because that's, to me, that's so old school way of thinking is, oh, we just got to pick one side, one team or the other, right? Like, no, we got to get breaks outside of that stuff. And like I say, and you're acknowledging it too, is just, let's just deal with each other as an individual. Matter of fact, I wish there was no such thing actually as political parties. I wish there were just people that represented themselves and what they stood for. Then you would be able to hold them to account. But now under the party banner things, like, well, now you can blame the party or the policy, not the particular individual. To me, that's a weasel way to get out from under being held responsible or personally accountable for the things or the stances or the position that you hold. Like I say, if you were dealing with an individual, it'd be really easy to just point to that individual and say, okay, we're not dealing with that one person anymore. Let's replace them with someone that respects my sovereignty and my freedom.
This is what happens when they give corporate entities life, where something as inanimate as a corporation can, have atrocity acted out by its members and then be completely immune to any repercussions, any consequence, because it's not the human being that is being looked at. It's some bloody corporate entity that's not even you can't punish a corporation. Like, what can you do? They stay away from individuality as much as possible because they know that is the key to freedom. They know that. So they will not teach us that. They will not do anything. I mean, our entire common law has been overrun by this admiralty crap, this commercial law that we don't even all they do now is give out licenses so that you can break the law at one given moment in time or not, it's really scary. It's really scary.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm glad you brought up the corporation, because that's actually one area where people that predominantly come from the left or the right, as far as their identity, as far as politics concerned, is I hear people all the time that come from the left and they blame corporations, and I'll agree. But usually what I usually try to explain to people is, yes, these corporations have this massive amount of power and influence to dictate and control people and to escape being accountable for their decisions. But once again, you have to always understand, where did the term corporation never, ever, ever existed until government created that term, and they entered that as an act of legislation, where now people that are owners of businesses are no longer held to account personally or liable. Now, when a person is held personally or liable for their economic decisions or the malfeasance or anything they do wrong in the economy, well, then that's easy to make sure that they're going to, or there's always going to find a small portion of people that might try to do the wrong thing. But if you can take away their Mercedes and their big mansion, chances are they'll probably be a little bit more respectful and try to run their business in a better, ethical or moral manner. But once you've created this term where now the people that are on the boards or the CEO of these corporations, and they're not held liable themselves, well, then where's the excuse? Where's the incentive for them to do the right thing? If they can offload the costs, I mean, look at the bailouts. Look at all the bailouts in which forcing every one of us to pay for these mega corporations. And it's not just us at this point in time. And I've said so many times before, the debts are so high now, it's actually even our kids and grandkids that they'll be enslaving economically to pay for some of these bailouts. And for what? I didn't do anything wrong. My kids didn't do anything wrong. The people that screwed over many of their customers, or like these banking institutions, they're the people that fucked up. Hold them to account. How come they get to walk off with their millions or billions and still have their super yachts meanwhile you get to force like Chrissy and I to have to pay to subsidize these people? That is where that's where it's so detrimental, and why people from the left and the right are so up in arms today. And this is where I think I enter into the equation. It's like, I get that those on the left and the right, I get everyone's pissed off. But let's focus. We all agree that the system is corrupt. Let's focus on genuine solutions that doesn't come from a side politically, where we're not looking at each other as like, can I beat you in a political race? Let's figure out what are we going to do that's going to make sure nobody has that capacity or the ability going forward to economically or socially enslave anyone. That's what I want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't really know. I mean, it's going to be one person at a time making this change. I've been watching Question Period my whole life, and I sit there today and I look at it, and I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed what we have decided to tolerate. I'm embarrassed by all of it. We have members of each side going back and forth doing their little dramas, and in their little gowns and doing their little gig thing going on there. And we've been putting up with this forever. We have to, one person at a time, make a change, because enough is enough. And I don't even know where to begin with something like this other than talking to the individual. I think that's the only cure for this. I really do. It's going to be one person at a time, many more years maybe, but we've got to get rid of this status quo. We've got to chuck this thing out the window. It's hurting us. It's hurting all of us. Even when we look at the immigrants that are coming to this country, it's going to hurt them too. It's going to hurt everybody involved in this, because none of it is being done for the right reasons. None of it. It's always being done to cover up mistakes or cover up atrocities, or cover up things that we shouldn't be participating in. Nothing happens for the right reasons in this country, for the human being. Nothing. It's always for corporations. It's always for money. It's always profit over purpose. And we have enough proof. We have decades and decades of proof that they're doing this. I just don't know, other than, approaching the individual on a regular basis, how, any other way that we're going to change it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Kelly. Sorry, not Kelly. That's the thing, Chrissy. Okay. Yeah, sorry, but don't sell yourself short, because even just us entering into this dialogue today has already shown that it's bearing fruit. That even though it was just us initially, I've already seen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this person, maybe not, but I was already reached out by Timothy Mark Anthony. Seems like another First Nations gentleman. And now we're going to be having a conversation on the 22nd. He was talking about they're having a protest. Actually, he might be out of Utah, I believe. Anyways, they're going to be doing a protest regarding something. Anyways, I believe on the 11th. But once again, all it took was for you and I to talk and engage. And now today, someone else will be listening to this, and they'll be like, oh, okay, they had a pretty good conversation. Like I say, every time we step or put our foot out there and show that we're going to lead by example and how things should be done by just treating each other with respect and talking to each other as individuals, that's going to entice more and more people to want to adopt and do the same thing, and forget that bull crap as far as treating each other based on our skin color or our heritage, that's where we are leading by example today. And I'm thankful that you would join me today so that we can do that, because like I say, this is our first foray into it, but who knows what this will come to and how it'll accumulate to in the future. Like I say, I'm always willing to talk to anybody from any background, from any ideology or any perspective. And I'm pretty sure that once we've engaged in dialogue and conversation, just like we're doing today, I think we can break through a lot of the things that's been jammed into our heads by the ones would be our thought leaders and our rulers that try to suggest that we should automatically hate each other. Well, I don't hate you, Chrissy. I have no reason to hate you. And that's the thing that the establishment media and those who are part of the ruling class, they're scared to death that you or I might get together and do this stuff. But you know what? Screw them, right?
You want to know something, CL? There's one thing I think is really super important in our efforts with this, and then that would be almost like an amnesty for each other. There's been a lot of hate and anger and resentment and all those negative feelings that have built up. I'm not one of those people who go for the facts over feeling thing, because I know emotion is the biggest motivator for violent crime. You can ask anybody in jail, ask any lawyer, ask any judge, ask any remaining family member of victims, and it's always boils down to feelings. So those things are very, very important, and we need not to hate each other. We need to extend, like I said, a little bit of an amnesty to each other, because this has been done to us. This rib between all of us has been put there, not by us. It has been put there on purpose to keep us all separated. So we need, in acknowledging that, we need to be kind to one another and loving and understanding and patient. And that might sound like a bit of a sermon, but it's age old, and it's age old for a reason, because it works.
Yeah.
So we need to extend. We need to realize that our fellow Canadian has been traumatized in many cases. Not everyone has been traumatized. People in First Nations, my God, come on. Mercury in their water? Are you fucking kidding me? How about standing walls and like, this is bullshit. Nelson Mandela went to prison for 27 years for fighting the same goddamn monster that's in this fucking country. Okay? So there's a lot of trauma that we need to extend understanding and a heart to if we want to get through this. I'm not one for religion. I can't stand it. But, look at Christians right now getting persecuted, right? I mean, usually I'm the first one to say, wah, but, there's people who don't belong being persecuted. They didn't do anything, but just because they belong to a certain group, they're getting shit on, right? Excuse my mouth. No. We need to extend our kindness to those people who are being hurt and those people who have this rib jabbed in between us. So I don't think that, we can sit there and say, yeah, I respect you as an individual, but unless we have that understanding for individual circumstance and feelings, admit that you have feelings enough that you can identify with another human being, then we'll be able to make some headway, I think.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing I've always found, which is why I align most closely as far as who I am as a person with the philosophy of libertarianism, is because, yes, it's a representation and an acknowledgement of the real world, how it exists, not this pretense that other people have built up. So as you were even alluding to earlier, you were saying it can't be just about being just, full on development of mindfulness and intellect, because like you said, the people that will commit crimes or people that are going through really personal hardships, yeah, emotions involved there, and pretending that that's not going to enter into the equation, that's bullshit. That's actually, to me, it's not just about intellectual development, but yes, appeals to not just people's compassion and emotions, but what they are and what it represents is when they're feeling oppressed. And that's the beautiful thing, is like, it shouldn't be one side or the other. Like, that's the thing with rejecting left or right. I would also say the same as far as your mind and your heart, right? I would say your mind is predominantly important when figuring out things as far as the objective world. But then there's also aspects of spirituality or religiosity or just your feelings. And we are human beings, so we have passion, we have emotions, and we have to respect the fact that, yes, people, they don't just think with their mind, but they also think with their heart as well, and they use their emotions. And the thing about a libertarian is, like, I will try to appeal to both, right? I want to appeal to your intellect, but I also understand that, hey, if I can't appeal to your intellect, I understand you also have emotions that I can appeal to as well. And even if I can't figure out some way that we can find somewhere we can align and associate with each other, whether it's on the intellectual sphere or on emotional based, that's the area where it's like, okay, even if there's a barrier where we just can't find any agreement, well, that's okay. I would prefer that we can find at least one or two. But even if we can't find a way to come to any agreement as far as intellectual or emotional, it's like, okay, the only thing that I would respect after that is, okay, we might not agree on anything either side, but then I'll be pragmatic, like, okay, just don't use force against me and I won't use force against you. I won't try to use government to impose my way of doing things on you, and you don't use government to impose your way of doing things. And then I think if we've adopted, and I think it would only take a few generations of people that were more conducive with doing that, I think we would actually have more unity with each other, because then once again, there would no longer be these divisions, these political identities that divide us, whether it's on the intellectual realm or like through our emotions. And once we get to the point where we don't have to deal with just using our emotions or our intellect to deal with each other as far as oppressing, if we just respect each other's sovereignty, then it's like, well, some people I can deal with. Chrissy, I mean, I can see today that I can deal with Chrissy. There might be some people that I can't deal with on an intellectual level or in the emotional realm. That's okay though. That just might very well happen. That's what it is to have a whole lot of people that are unique and individual and have their own personal characteristics. The only thing I would expect after that or subsequent to that, if I can't appeal to your emotion or your intellect, then at the very least, all I require or demand of you is that you at least respect my sovereignty, as long as I'm not causing harm to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's as simple as that. It really is.
Yeah, it is, Chrissy. No, like I say, I was really looking forward to having this discussion with you, because I kind of suspected, and it's not like we didn't spend any time before this video setting this up. But I just had an initial concept about you that you weren't trying to be adversarial. You weren't going to try to play any political games with me. And I see that my assumptions were correct. You're just someone that wants to discuss these very important issues and topics that affect us all. And like I say, that's what we're doing. And by leading by example like this, like I say, we're helping a whole lot of people today. And I do say there's quite a few people in the chat, and like every one of those people, even within the chat, they've got people in their own life. So let's say even there's only 100 people in the chat, those 100 people probably know 10 people, and those 10 people they know, so we can help a lot of Canadians, even just by you and I, just two voices talking today, which is why I try to do this on a continuing ongoing basis, because this is the way that we're going to break free from collectivism or authoritarianism or these kind of bullshit prejudice in how we treat or perceive each other, is having these kind of very engaging discussions and show that no, you don't have to function from that realm. And by doing so, like I say, we're helping a whole lot of people break through from their own current paradigm that's keeping them in some pretty sad states, as far as I'm concerned.
It is sad states. I'm my own story is a pretty sad state.
Hey, go ahead if you want to say it. Tell us your story.
No,
go ahead.
I'm a survivor of this round. I'm a survivor of this round. I came to terms with the damage that individuals in our government have done with policy and their personalities. As a child, being ripped out of my home because I could be, watching the aftermath of my grandfather escaping res school. Now, I don't call them schools because you and I don't have mass graves of our playmates under our tetherball court, do we? No, so I don't call them schools, right? They're genocidal institutions. And, come to terms with what that did to my family. It destroyed it. When they talk about intergenerational trauma, I lived it. I experienced it, and I've survived it. I survived a world of addiction, hardcore dope addiction for years, all inflicted by the freaking crown, of course. Under the guise of trauma therapy, I sought help. I was actually hooked on dope by my family doctor / priest, who was also an opioid addict. While he got carted off to Boys Club rehab, me and his other victims got sent to the street to die. And that's a regular thing going on in this country. But you know what? I lived, and he's dead from cancer. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a hard thing. And I'm one individual with one story, and we've got 36 million of us here with stories. You don't have to be a member of First Nations, or a person sick with addiction, or any other of those groups to feel the wrath of the crown. We've got it from one level of being overtaxed, so we can't even afford to put roof over our heads, to being poisoned with carfentanil, to soldiers being lied to when they're recruited into being cronies for the crown in other countries. There's just innumerable individuals that have been at the hands of these monsters, and it's got to stop. And I'm going to use terms like monsters, because when you can destroy lives as easily as a priest can rape a little boy and get away with it, it's a sad state in this country. It's got to stop.
Yeah.
It's got to.
Well, I will definitely agree, especially with the carfentanil or something. Like I say, this is an area that I'm not really, really good at. So you probably have more knowledge in regards to that stuff, as I do. But I will say, anything that's misrepresented, as far as if you're selling drugs to someone and it's not representative of what they believe it to be, and it's something that can cause you real, genuine personal harm, then the onus is definitely on the distributor or those who are selling it, that they are personally responsible for it. But I will say, I will offer a little bit of pushback as far as people that do become druggies or form habits as far as drugs. There has to be a role of personal responsibility in that as well, because like I said, even myself, and I have members of my family, so it's not like I'm speaking out the side of my mouth. I have members of my family that really, really, really had some really bad drug problems. And I get that there's circumstances, there are some external actors that probably had an influence in contributing to that. But I also will hold even those in my family that if you chose to take those drugs, at the end of the day, unless you can show me that someone, put the needle in your arm or put the pill down your throat or crushed it up and snorted it, you still have to assume some bit of personal responsibility for that.
I won't pretend to know anyone else's story, because I don't. But I'll tell you, as a young mom of 3, I went to my church, and I was recommended to a priest, and he happened to be a GP. And unbeknownst to me, he was an opioid, intramuscular injecting opioid addict. Under the guise of trauma therapy, I began to get house calls and injections of what I thought was medicine. Now, in the early 90s, I didn't know what opioid addiction was. I didn't know what opioids were. I mean, I was turned off dope from a bad trip in grade 9 on weed, right? So I was completely ignorant and extended my trust and my faith in this doctor. And I didn't even know I was sick with addiction until he was nowhere to be found, due to being caught. So that's just my individual story. I don't know everyone else's story.
Chrissy, your response couldn't have been more perfect than if we had written this script out. And I was hoping, I didn't know how you were even going to go. That was like fucking perfect. This is exactly the kind of response I was hoping, because you're absolutely right. That is a thing where you're saying, okay, yes, I can assume my personal responsibility, but there was someone that was supposed to be in a position of authority, which is, like you say, your doctor, your practitioner, right? And you're absolutely right in that. It's because we're taught to respect these people for their expertise and their authority. So if that person is in a position of authority and has done that to you, you are 100% correct in that. And I'll tell you why I even acknowledge that, because my own son, my youngest son, he fell off. It was a little rock quarry we had back when I lived in my house back east. This was years ago, and he fell off this rock, top of the rock quarry, because one of the rocks had broken free from where it was, and he fell down the hill. And I couldn't believe it, even when my wife, they had transferred them to him to the hospital, because he was there with his friends on their ATVs, and we were called after, and we had to meet at the hospital. But when we got there, I could not believe it, and my wife too. We were both amazed. Now, he did have a fractured rib, a slight puncture of his lung. Like, he was damaged. He was banged up pretty good, but he was okay. He was going to make it. But even just on those more or less superficial wounds, I mean, they were, I guess you would say, like, quasi, nothing over, nothing life-threatening, that's for sure. But that was the very first thing that they tried to suggest, even for my son, is to put him on a regimen of these opiates. As far as I don't know if it was Dilaudid or whatever the heck it was,
Oh my
but
God.
it's like, for what? For what? What the hell? Like, but like you said, now if I was someone that maybe, now fortunately for me, I was a little bit wise to this because I had other people in my family, so I was already exposed to some of the negative connotations or aspects of these opiates. So I kind of already had the flag raised. But yes, if you're someone that has no prior experience in that, and you go into this place and you have a doctor or someone that's trying to prescribe these, you might very much conducive, even though you're a loving parent, you'd be like, oh, well, of course, this doctor must know what they're doing. So I'm going to yield to their authority and I'm going to accept that they know better than I do. But then after the fact, if your child becomes addicted, or you yourself become addicted, who's responsible after that when you've taken the advice of someone that should be authority? Well, that doctor should be held responsible, right? And I agree with you in that regard. That is a major problem. That's a major issue that definitely has to be dealt with.
We're at the point now where we're kind of jumping on board holding pharmaceutical companies responsible. But we're not there as far as holding these physicians responsible. And we need to be, because they are as guilty as any other pusher. And you know, I guess we want to go easy on them because many of them help us in so many other ways. But let's make no mistake, you know, when you hook people on a substance like opioid, especially the synthetic one, you know, it's a proven thing that, you know, there is no escape from this crap other than to actually go through the disease of addiction. You know, we have opioids mandated apparently because of this. So it's not like anybody can sit here and say, oh, we didn't know. No, they wanted control of the entire industry, and they said it was because they were dangerous and potentially fatal and highly addictive. So they've always known of these dangerous qualities to opioids, and now they don't want to take responsibility. Well, before I take my last breath in this world, I will see them be held responsible. The Royal College needs to be held responsible, period, because we can't, under corporate law, hold individual doctors responsible. You know, when I phoned the cop, or I made a report out to the police when I realized what had happened to me with the drugs, I went to Durham Regional Police, and they went and had a little chit chat with them. Da-di-da-di-da. You know, guy gets to go to boys club rehab and doesn't have to account for any lives that he destroyed. I had 3 children, for fuck's sake. They deserved a mother.
Yep.
You know? And I have to hold myself responsible for all the actions that I did during my active using years, which I've been clean for 12.
Right on. Congrats.
Thank you. I'm living. You know, I haven't touched hard drugs in over a decade, and I think that's a miracle, because guess what? I did it when I stopped calling myself names. When I stopped labeling.
Well, that's and actually that perfectly illustrates the fact that yes, they want you know, these so-called experts or people in position of authority. Yeah, they want you to hold yourself to a ridiculously high standard as far as your ethics and your morality and being responsible. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then they should be doing the same thing. That's the problem. That's the issue that I take with too is, okay, you want to hold, you know, the citizens to a high star or a high standard or a high bar as far as their personal responsibility. Okay, well, that should be reciprocal, right? If you want Chrissy to be personally responsible in everything she does, well, then you, the doctor that's gone with all this formal education and all this training, well, don't you think you should, at the very least, at the minimal, be held to that same kind of standard? That's the hypocrisy and why people are like, don't even respect the people that represent. Now, to me, I would deal with a doctor as an individual, but that's why even doctors or pharmacies are getting a negative connotation and a negative name these days, is because they're not vocal as far as holding their own counterparts to that kind of standard. Where are the doctors out there today saying that we stand against what our other doctors are doing? I don't see the voices being boisterous.
I don't
openly vocal, standing and opposing it. Whereas you're the one that's standing in opposition to it. You're holding yourself responsible for your action, for your deeds, and your decisions you made in the past. Where are these people doing the same thing? That is the
They
problem
don't
that
have.
we see. Go ahead, Chrissy, dig in.
They don't. They don't have to account because they're corporations. You know, they're not individuals. They can go sleep at night. I don't know how they do it, but they don't have to account under our corporate law. That's just the way it works. And we can thank Trudeau Sr. for that one, I think. But I don't know, short of, rallying against them, I don't know what the hell to do with these people. But when you can create thousands and thousands and thousands of addicts, systematically cut them off because you don't want to account for your part in this, and then have them knowingly send them to the street where they'll be poisoned with things like carfentanil. I call that a call. And I'll tell you something else. There's only one party that is profiting majorly big time from this whole atrocity with what they call the opiate crisis. And that is the naloxone makers, the monopoly, Amphastar, naloxone makers. You know, you can go on and look at their docs and see the growth. I'd like to know how they were able to prepare for such a, an explosion in poisonings. How did they have so many antidotes so perfectly? You know, they seem to be the only ones profiting from this entire problem. And I want to ask you a question is, do you think drug dealers would kill their paychecks?
Well, you mean like if you were a drug dealer in a private sector kind of environment?
Like if you got any drug dealer on the street, what kind of drug dealer would poison their clientele?
Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. A person that requires it to sustain themselves and requires voluntary interaction, they would never do so. But yes, if you're a crony or a crown corporation, then you don't really care because everyone is forced to go to you. Whereas if you're working in the private sector or the black market, you're not going to want to kill off your customer because it's literally the only thing that sustains you, which is why I'd always trust when people go on about even like as far as marijuana or cannabis and stuff. It's like I'll still trust the local guy standing on the corner more than some crony corporation that's got a government license, right? I'll trust the guy in the corner every day. Hello? Still there, Chrissy? Darn, we were doing good for connection there. I'm just going to check the chat here, actually, see how everyone's doing. What's going on, everyone? Going to go straight to the bottom of the chat here. Repeal drug prohibition and the doctor become moot. Yeah. Get jobs going. People do drugs responsibly. That's lightning rod. Drady. In all cities, you will see new crosswalk lights being installed. Already 5G. Oh, back still on the 5G thing here. I didn't even know about that. Well, I guess it started out that way. Canada needs a new plan. Listen to what she's saying. The doctor said no. So you go to the street. How is the doctor responsible for that? Huh? No, if she's not blaming anyone on the street, and that's the thing, the person on the street, I guess we could actually, that's a good point actually brought up there, is because I should have asked actually, so these people that are dying from fentanyl or what was the other part of fentanyl she was saying? But yeah, where are they getting the drugs? Because I don't believe fentanyl is prescribed by doctors. Like I say, I'm a little that's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse as far as knowledge. I don't know much about opiate stuff, fentanyl and that, but I would imagine you're probably getting that from someone on the street, right? I would think. Anyways, I don't believe doctors can prescribe that stuff. So once again, I'll have to yield to someone else's knowledge on that particular topic. Let me just go up here and make sure there hasn't been any super chats I've missed. Oh, okay, good. Just want to make sure. I just want to say, actually, before, if Chrissy, let's see what's going on here. No, she's gone, so she must have had a bad connection. But I just want to say first, before Chrissy gets back, thanks for everyone that's joined us today on this chat. Like I say, I'm always looking to have a conversation and dialogue with anybody. So, like I say, if it doesn't matter what you identify with, and you've seen the kind of conversation I've had, so at least you have an understanding of where I'm going to come at things. I'm not going to try to be adversarial unless you bring it first. You know, if you try to ramp it up and be adversarial as far as, you know, imposing yourself on me, then, you know, you'll get a particular kind of response. But if you treat me with respect and dignity and acknowledge my sovereignty, then I think I can, like I say, I can enter into and engage in a conversation or a debate or dialogue with basically anyone, because I have no pretense. Like, I'm not looking to be your authority. I'm just looking to engage in conversation so that we can hopefully understand where each other's coming from and how best we can deal with that, and how we can respect each other's own sovereignty. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. I just don't want people to have any pretense where they're one person based on their identity qualifiers, right? I don't want anyone to debate or their group identity to believe that there's a one size fits all approach in how things should be done. The only one size fits all that matters to me is just respecting each other's sovereignty and our freedoms and our liberties, as far as don't use preemptive force, violence, coercion, or theft. Those are pretty simplistic as far as I'm concerned, as far as basic requirements and how we interact or engage each other socially or economically. Lightning Rod. Yeah, she's gone. Yeah. Well, she is for now. I'm not sure if she's coming back. Like I say, I'm just going to keep doing the stream anyways. So if there's anyone in the chat that has any conversations that they want to pose, I'm more than willing to answer anything you got to say. Fia is being flushed. What? Flat is being flushed as we speak. Drady. Not quite sure what you mean there. I'm just going to scroll a little bit further up and see if anyone else had any questions they wanted to pose. Addict is a stigmatized term. Should be one cop for every Canadian. Whoa, that's a police state, man. If there's 36 million, I don't think you mean that, right? There's 36 million Canadians. You don't want a cop. 18 million cops if you have in the population, or what? 72 million Canadians and half of them are cops. Yeah, thanks, but hell no. What the hell would I want that for? No thanks. Give us money and then you can be a citizen. Give us money and then you can be a citizen. So it seems like, yeah, not much going on even in the chat here for some reason. So I don't know. Oh, here we go. Ian, what's going on? Hey, Ian. Missed most of your show. We'll have to watch later. Yeah, it was a good, engaging conversation actually with Chrissy. She just lost her connection. It happened a couple times actually earlier on in the conversation, but there was quite a stretch there where everything was going good. So we got some good dialogue and discourse going on. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Like I said, I'm going to keep the stream going a little bit longer just in case she does try to get back in. Plus, like I say, I'm always looking to engage even with anyone in the chat and respond to maybe your questions or concerns. Keep going on the update subject. Where does temptation come into the picture? Temptation? Lead us not into temptation. Oh, temptation definitely is always. I mean, we're always tempted by many things, but that's where, once again, that onus of personal responsibility enters in the equation too. Is I'm tempted all the time. I mean, even when I think about my own personal financial or economic situation currently, there's lots of things I could do that would make it my economic situation more rewarding, but it also means I would probably have to do things that aren't ethical or moral as far as what I stand for. So I'll willingly sacrifice some of my economic prosperity by trying to do the right thing. It's the thing. I'm goal oriented, but I also place morality and ethics at the core of my social and economic interactions, engagements with people. And like I say, I've seen over the course of my life, it's bared fruit, tremendous amount of fruit. which is why I can basically talk to anyone and not have concerns that I'm going to be treated inappropriately by them, because I respect them for their individuality and their sovereignty. And usually I get that same reciprocal effect afforded to me as a consequence. You see if there's no, looks like Chrissy's gone. Let me go on my, I have to go back and open my Facebook page and see if she's responding there. Do, 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 do. Oh, maybe I should mention what's going on next week here. Same thing from Chrissy. Oh, yes, Sable Trim. Yes, I got Sable Trim. She's a PPC candidate. I'll be having a conversation with her. I don't think we've confirmed, but let me just double check. Actually, yeah, so Sable Trim. Actually, I just saw a notification from her on my YouTube or my Canadian Libertarian Facebook page. So Sable Trim, I'm going to be having a conversation with her. She's a PPC candidate. And it's on Saturday. So next weekend, next Saturday, June the 8th, it'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be talking about environmental and farming issues. I believe she comes from a rural farming background, and we're going to be discussing environmental aspects and as it pertains to farming and agriculture. So that'll be a good conversation. Okay. What else do we got here? Oh, and Zach Young. I believe Facebook, yeah, it was a challenge regarding PPC supporters. So I believe Zach Young is a CPC, so a conservative supporter, and he put out a post. Was it on? Yeah, it was on my Facebook page, basically challenging people who support the PPC. It might have to do with dividing the vote, right? I don't know, but we're going to be talking about the whole thing with as far as supporting the CPC, and he's probably going to be taking an adversarial position where he says it's wrong to support the PPC. So we're going to be enter into that conversation, that kind of dialogue in as it pertains to support the PPC. I'll be definitely taking the pro side of that as a founding member and supporter of the PPC. We also actually have Charles Dean. This was through a Twitter interaction, and I think that's going to once again, this Zach Young, there's a question mark, so he hasn't quite confirmed it yet. If not, I guess Charles Dean will take his place, and that's supposed to happen June 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And it, too, perfectly aligned, has to do with supporting the PPC. So, yeah, so next weekend, we're going to have, like I say, on June the 9th, it's either going to be Zach Young or Charles Dean, or, hey, it might even be both. I'll do both if need be. And Sable Trim. So Saturday 8th. So both Saturday and Sunday next weekend, I'll have Sable Trim, and on Sunday, either Zach or Charles or both of them. Now, we do have a few lined up for the following weekend, but I'll just stick with next weekend for now as far as putting it out there, because you never know how things can change. People do get busy in their lives, and they have to change their schedules and maybe rearrange them for another point in time in the future. Oh, it looks like Chrissy may have responded to my Facebook post here, so I just want to check and see what she's saying. Once again, I'm very appreciative to have these kind of conversations with my fellow Canadians, because, like I say, all we got to do, folks, let's just engage in some dialogue, and you'll find out fairly quickly that we're not enemies. Trust me. As much as the establishment, the ruling class, or those who represent your thought leaders, as much as they want to put forth the notion that we're all adversarial and hating on each other today, that's not reality. And the only way to prove that is to, like I say, openly engage in dialogue with each other. Okay, so no, she just responded by saying okay on the last one. So Anyways, Chrissy, if you don't end up making it back in the conversation, like I say, I will say right now that I really enjoyed it so far, and it was a good, engaging dialogue. Anyways, what was it, 125? So yeah, we had a good couple hours. Anyway, so it was a good conversation. So thanks, Chrissy, for engaging in this conversation with me. Anytime in the future, if you ever want to reach out to me again, I'm always here and willing to engage, as you know, and converse regards to lots of different areas or topics or subject in regards to not just politics, but philosophy, history, geography. I just love, like, to me, it's like I love thinking is great, and discussing important topics. I find it very rewarding. So, like I say, reach out to me at some point in time, and we'll have this kind of conversation again. Let me just check with the folks in the chat, see how everyone's doing. Hey, Gato. You see what Gato's got to say. Fentanyl is prescribed to people with a chronic illness and who are allergic to morphine. Ah, well, thanks for that. So it is prescribed. Okay. See, I wasn't aware of that, Gato. I'm glad you told me this because, yeah, I'm a little bit out of touch with the whole fentanyl thing. But if it is prescribed with a chronic illness and who are allergic to morphine, so if it is something that's prescribed by the doctors, that is one area, then the doctors should be really, really proactive and doing their best. Now, I'm not saying that people might slip through the cracks, and holding all doctors to account and suggest that they're all fully responsible for what's happened. But there has to be some responsibility involved with those who are prescribing. And if that's done through the doctors in this country, then yeah, you guys and girls need to do, at least some of you, a portion of you, need to do a much better job as far as figuring out. And that's actually the beautiful thing about cannabis now being legalized and being more readily accepted and available as far as dealing with some of these issues, because it seems like cannabis related products can help deal with a lot of the issues that people predominantly head towards these opiate based drugs. Is cannabis can probably help you over a lot of the issues that you might use for these opiates, and obviously is a lot less, not just a lot less harmful, actually not harmful at all. So that's one thing I will say about the legalization, at least in the pharmaceutical aspect of it. It will help in that area regard, and hopefully maybe doctors will be more willing to prescribe cannabis related products for people to deal with their pain or their issues, rather than things that are opiate based. So thanks for pointing that out, Gato. Fentanyl is prescribed to old people to reduce their pain in patients with cancer. Okay, so it is prescription based. Okay, thanks again. Thanks. That's, like I say, I'm always thankful to have some knowledgeable people in the chat that can help me in that, because there's lots of areas in my mind that I don't have much knowledge on, and I'll yield to those who have more of authority or more fundamental grasp or knowledge in regards to these issues. Thanks, Gato. Weed is definitely not legal. If anything, it's more invasive. Well, the way the government set it up, it's definitely legal. That legalization brought a whole lot more restrictions, right? So I get what you're saying there. But there's still some areas where I think, as far as doctors prescribing it, might be more conducive and make it more readily available and accessible to a patient. So, like I say, there is some positive aspects to legalization, although as far as I'm concerned, it should have been just genuine decriminalization, or just don't stigmatize it, right? That's why the hell does government have any pretense of controlling that? Like, let the market function in a proper manner and hold particular, like I say, those who would be prescribers or owners of these businesses, hold them to account. That's the best way to deal with it, folks. Apply the weed scrutiny to the morphine problem. Just thought 9 packs of veg seed. Oh, just bought 9 packs of veg seeds for $3. Nice. Cannabis seeds cost $20. Right. It was never hard to get, bro. Well, weed's definitely not hard to get. Not over the entire course of my life, as far as since I've known about cannabis, weed, or pot. Yeah, I've never heard people say, damn, I just can't get my hands on some weed. Matter of fact, seems like it's been readily available in our countries for as long as I've been alive. Very flourishing market as far as I'm concerned. I think there's a couple of times, maybe back in the 90s, there was small shortages. But the only time there's actually that I remember there was even shortages was because the cops were trying to criminalize and steal or confiscate people from selling, growing, cultivating, or distributing that particular pot of choice or weed of choice, right? Anyways, yeah, so I guess Chrissy's gone. So I'll just mention, like I say, one more time to Chrissy, thank you for this great, engaging conversation that we had. And hopefully we can have another conversation at some point in time in the future. Appreciate it. All right. So is there any further questions with anyone in the chat? If not, I'll probably tie this live stream up now. Because like I say, I definitely want to make sure I'm engaging with anyone in the chat and giving you the opportunity to say what you got to say, and me offering any responses that I can. But it seems like it's pretty slowed down by now. Repeal is the proper word. Legalize implies the state. Yeah, exactly. Indeed, the government did pass a law to permit you to smoke cannabis. You're a serf. Yeah, that's true, Chris. Although not me particularly. Email? Oh, Ian, yeah. I don't usually give up my email per se. And actually, in the age of social media, there's not really any genuine reason for it because there's a million ways to contact me. Email can be a way for not just for tracking purposes, but where they can start to people can start to mess with you, or I don't want to end up getting spam emails and shit and be hacked or something. So, like I say, all of the main platforms such as Facebook, Messenger, Twitter, and like Minds or Gab, all the messaging services, how you communicate on all those platforms, which I'm on every single one of them, or even here on YouTube, is you can do that through message form, right? And it's a direct way to communicate with me without having to get into the whole email thing. So just like I say, Ian, if you look every video I upload, by default, all the links to every one of my social media pages is already there and present. So just go to any one of them, send me a message through, like I say, the messaging service for that particular platform, and I'll definitely respond to you. I might actually someday set up a completely different email that's removed from any of the ones I use for my social media pages, and then just give that for people to reach out to me. But once again, even AJ, because we deal with each other a couple times in past emails, like I'm bad and AJ not much better. He's admitted himself is, yeah, we're not. I usually don't check my email nearly as much as I do my regular social media pages. Do I smoky? Like weed? Super chat takes 30%. Hate to donate money to YouTube. Oh yeah, that's all good. Yeah, I know they do take a percentage of it. But it's okay. Like I say, it's fine. If you don't choose to donate, like I say, if you're just even actively engaged in the discourse of the conversation, I find that rewarding on its own. It doesn't help pay the bills much, but don't worry about that stuff, Ian. You don't have to explain yourself to me. Like I say, just anyone that is out there, because of my positions, there are people that are very much adversarial towards me, and I do find that I like I say I don't like to get into conspiratorial stuff, but I have had my opportunities as far as occupation and jobs have greatly diminished. I don't know. I haven't changed myself much other than the fact they've destroyed my ability to be employed on the historical parts that was dominant as far as that. I was a truck driver and they took my license away from me as a truck driver. So not only to destroy my ability to be like a long haul truck driver, but you kind of need, like, if your occupation requires you to have license and they take it away from you, it destroys so many areas of your occupation. And it's other than me, the only thing I seem to be that I can be gainfully employed now is because I have still some pretty good physical characteristics. I can go into the construction field, but dang, I can't do that forever. I work hard and I still don't mind working hard. As a matter of fact, for the next little bit over the next month or so, I'm going to not have as much time on social media because I'm going to have to get really, really busy here doing a lot of really hard physical work to, like, once again, to supplement, to keep the bills paid, keep the heat on and all that. Well, not so much heat, I guess, in the summer. So I'm not going to be as readily available for at least the next month or two. And hopefully I'll at least make a little bit of coin that way. But like I said, at some point in time, well, right now, that's why I've monetized my videos, is I've got to figure out either I have to do this and be compensated. And I've said this in the past, even just $5, few hundred people, right? $5 a piece. And that's enough to sustain me for, I don't require much. I've been wise. I've paid off all the bills, mortgage and all that. So what I require to sustain myself is pretty minimal. I may need your help in that area, in that regard. But yeah, don't worry about it, Ian. If you don't have the money now, or if you don't feel like using it, or you're not comfortable with using it, then just, oh, it's okay. I will never hold it against you. That's for sure. Yeah, I hear you, buddy. We all need more money. Why only one social media site? No, I'm on lots. Like I say, just scroll down. Even right now, if you just scroll down to the description of this video, you'll see I'm on Mind, Gab, BitChute, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I was on Steam it there for a while. I don't know, my account's probably still there, but I haven't. But like 5 is enough, right? It's even right now. Every time I upload something, I have to do it to 5 platforms. That's enough work all on its own. And if you question that, try doing it yourself, and you'll see, like, damn, it's a lot of work. It takes up. Matter of fact, I basically work a full-time day every day, not just to do the videos, but all that I need to get ready for the videos, all the information I need to learn, the editing, the rendering, the thumbnails, the post-production. There's so many things that I do just to even, it's basically like a full-time job every day. And then I got to go try to do a regular job that actually pays. So right now it's like I'm doing a full-time job predominantly in the social media realm with basically minimal compensation. So far, even what have I made? $60 in the last few weeks. I try living on it. But like I say, it's all good. But like I say, I do, anyone that does have the ability, or if you have the capacity and the money to help me out in any way, I definitely require it, and I appreciate it. And I'll give you value in return. I think what I provide does have tangible value, or at least it should. And the way I'll know that if it does have tangible value, if you reward me for such. Maybe most of you don't think that what I offer is of tangible value. And if that's the case, then hey, I'll just have to accept that reality, right? But I think I do. I'll donate off YouTube. I'd e-transfer. Oh, well, that's very cool, Barcode. Yeah, that's actually pretty sweet. But like I say, I don't have an email set up. And for the e-transfer stuff, because I do the e-transfer stuff, but my wife has an account set up for all that stuff, and I just don't use it personally. And I wouldn't proactively offer out her email for someone that I don't know per se. So maybe I will do that even just for the e-transfers. I did set up a PayPal account because I realized that you probably need like a PayPal account for that stuff too. Wonder, can you do it in a PayPal account? Like I say, I'm all new to this whole donation or being compensated for what I provide. So I don't know, maybe you could do it even through that way. Because I do have a PayPal account, and I'll actually try to. Did I post that? Maybe I'll have to add that into the link in the description of my video, that PayPal account. Because then if you could do it through that, then I'd be appreciative of even just that. So like you say, you don't have to do it with the intermediary of YouTube. So yeah, don't worry about YouTube, or sorry, don't worry about a Barcode. We'll figure it out at some point in time, and maybe like I saw, I'll put a link to my PayPal. Actually, which is why I should have that right now. Now that I think of it, I should have that in the description of my video, and I'll add that at some point in time. Or did I? Say I do so much in the run of a day, sometimes I forget everything that I've done. But let me just check here real quick. People's Party platform, Hunters, full social media. No, it's not there yet. So I'll have to add it. But yeah, I do have a PayPal account, so I'll have to add that in the description of this video. But thanks again. Like I say, anyone that's willing to help me out in any way, I really appreciate it if you can. I have done e-transfer with some others, easier for technical challenge people like myself. Well, that's cool, Ian. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, like I say, I'll have to get something figured out. So don't worry about it for today. That's all good. Well, I'll get it figured out at some point in time in the future, and maybe in a future live stream, I'll have that all sorted out. And then when you mention it, I'll have all the answers to offer you and how you can do that. Thanks. I'm an analog man in a digital room. I get you, buddy. I'm kind of that middle ground. I was kind of a little bit lucky in a way, although, like I say, I haven't been staying on top of it maybe as much as I should have. But yeah, being a Gen Xer, born 1970, I did just happen to come along at the point where I was turned into my teen years, my early teen years in the early 80s when, you know, the personal computer was actually something that was actually, it was the first time that they were readily available to the younger people. And I'm very appreciative that the fact that I at least had that part of my history. It's good to know, but I get it when you're totally in the analog way of doing things. Yeah, it's, hey, change sometimes for certain things. And it's not as easy as you would like it to be. And I totally understand. Not everyone. It's the thing. I don't treat people poorly because they don't want to adopt or develop or get on board with new technologies. Hey, everyone does their own thing in their own way, and whatever. It's to each their own, right? Don't insult people just because they're not willing to adopt technologies that maybe some of the younger people or people that are thinking about things differently. That's the beautiful thing about having many different ways of doing things rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. Is if you have multiple ways of doing things, then we don't have to appeal to just a one-size-fits-all approach. And I like the idea of having competition or variables. That's a sore spot for a lot of people living off a pension. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's true. Very true. Oh, the VIC 20. So you know then, Ian. Yeah, the VIC 20. Yeah. That was my first computer. Then it was the 64. Remember the Omega 128? Ooh, that was a big time, right? Remember the Omega 128? You were stepping into the big time then if you could get your hands on a Commodore Omega 128. Ooh, 128 kilobytes, right? Not gigabytes, not megabytes, not terabytes, but kilobytes, like insane if you think about the computing processes and the speed or should I say the memory capacity and stuff. Like, wow, think how small and how infinitesmal it was in comparison to what we have today, where now you can buy like what, those little tiny little micro SD cards with like, what are they, 128 256 or wait, no, they're into the gigs. What am I saying? But yeah, there's like, you're into the gigs now as far as these tiny ass little micro SD cards. A lot of computing power in comparison and contrast to back when me and Ian, you know, the old VIC 20s and such, and the old 5 1/4, the big old floppies, right? Yeah, I remember the days, or the 300 baud modem, and then eventually they come out with it was a 1200 baud. Ooh, big time! Look at the speeds. It was like a snail on steroids. Oh, yeah, the 128. Yeah. No, it was pretty cool. Like I say, it was awesome. Like I say, and who I have to appreciate is an old girlfriend. Like I say, when I was a teenager, it was her younger brother that got me into the computers. I just, you know, wanted to see what he was up to and talk with him. And he was trying to show me about computers back in the day. He was actually younger than both of us, but he was quite a tech guy. I think about it today. Wonder if he's one of those tech gurus out there today. You never know, because he was pretty smart even back then as far as knowing how to use computers. And if he stuck with it, it's because he was into the coding, because back then MS-DOS, DOS prompt, that was the only way you had basically to use your computer. He stuck with it. Man, that guy might be a very wealthy individual at this point in time. Some days I wish instead of, well, maybe not though, because I met my wife and had a family. So I think I've been rewarded socially as a consequence of not going down the staying into the computers, but economically, yeah, I think I denied myself a whole lot of economic compensation by prioritizing, you know, family life and stuff. But I think I still make the right decision for me, anyways. Anyways, folks, I see that it's getting pretty quiet in the chat. Like I say, thanks to everyone that has shown up today. Like I say, next weekend, I'm 2 more live streams, Saturday and Sunday. And of course, I'll be doing my daily upload videos for the week. Actually, I got to get a couple more videos uploaded, not uploaded, but recorded today, because I got to make sure, because I'm going to be really busy this week. So I got to make sure I got everything done that I can do my regular job and still have time to have videos uploaded on a daily and ongoing basis, even though, again, YouTube seems to be messing with my sub count and my views because of the spam issue I've been having. But I'm trying to resolve that problem. having a little hard time because the folks in the YouTube seem to be not very good with the customer service or dealing with the creators quite as readily as, or at least as much as I would hope. I'm not giving much traction or getting much feedback as far as what I'm supposed to do to change things to get the situation corrected. But anyways, thanks to everyone for joining me in the conversation or in this chat today. Everyone have a good day, and we'll see you next weekend. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.